Most people say that they have faith, but what does that actually look like in real life? So I had a really interesting conversation with someone the other day, and they asked me this question: how do you live out your faith? And I thought it was an excellent question, but it's also very complex. And so I thought, you know what? This would be a great episode for the Hustle and Faith podcast. So how I answered that question was, I am living out my faith by showing up consistently, building intentionally, and trusting God with my calling. Now, I am human. I do not in any way, shape, or form want to give the impression that I have arrived. Consistency is something that I struggle with, and I'm doing my best to address that issue. But that would definitely have to be my answer. In addition to, here are 7 other ways that I am living out my faith. So I wanted to share that with you because I want you to think about this question as well. Again, how do I live out my faith? And for you, that would be, how are you living out your faith? All right. So number 1, I am living out my faith through obedience in motion, not perfection. So, lately, especially, this is so true lately with some of the things that I've been encountering in my life. But I'm trying so hard not to wait until things are neat and tidy, resolved, or comfortable to trust God. If anything, because of the adversity that I've been facing lately, I am able to move forward while things are still uncertain, right? Financially, professionally, building something new is going to take a lot of faith. Okay. That's biblical faith in action. God says that we are to walk by faith, not by sight. And so regardless of how uncertain my circumstances have been looking, I still continue to show up, create, serve, and speak, even when the outcomes that I desire, are not guaranteed. Number 2, I refuse to compartmentalize God. So my faith is not just limited to a church or quiet time or inspirational messages like this one, right? I am bringing God into my business decisions, how I create content, how I advocate for how I advocate for justice, how my creativity, my healing process. I'm integrating God in all of these things. And I know that's really rare, but it shouldn't be, right? So many people have a tendency to believe privately, but then operate publicly as if God is irrelevant. And I don't want to be one of those people. And basically what I just described was a hypocrite, right? And I definitely don't want to be considered to be hypocritical. So I want to allow my faith to shape how I build, not just what I believe. And so number 3, I steward my pain instead of hiding it. So, one of the clearest ways that I believe in living out my faith is that I refuse to allow my pain to be in vain. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm not pretending that things aren't hard for me or minimizing injustices that I've suffered and others that have suffered. I don't bypass grief, anger, or disappointment. I will let you know. I'm very transparent about how I feel, and I will let you know about those things as well. So I think some of us have a tendency to believe that us feeling angry is a sin, or feeling disappointed is a sin. And none of those things could be further from the truth. In fact, the Bible says, be ye angry and sin not. You can be angry and still not sin, right? You can be disappointed. We can let God know, hey, God, I don't like what's happening here. What is going on? You can talk to him, obviously be respectful about it, right? But you have the ability to talk to him. And I think that's, especially during times of adversity and confusion, I have really been leaning on the questions because, God is all about leveraging the experiences that we encounter in our lives, because he wants to make sure that nothing goes in vain, nothing is wasted. And I want to make sure, as I go through these adversities, those are like tests, right? And I don't want to have to fail a test unnecessarily only to have to retake that same test again. Don't want to do that. Been there, done that through so many times in my life, and I don't want to do it again. So some of the ways that I have been really trying to make sure that I don't compartmentalize God is making sure that I'm asking God, I'm telling him, hey, I'm not a fan of what I'm going through right now, but I know you're trying to teach me something. What is it? What lesson or lessons am I supposed to be learning right now? And many times, if you calm down and stop complaining, you will be in a position to see what God is teaching you. And trust me, that it is easier said than done, but it can be done. And so, asking yourself, what is God forming inside of me? What is he teaching me? And how can this help someone else? That is literally Romans 8, chapter 8, 20 verse. Sorry, that is literally Romans chapter 8, verse 28 in action. And then number 4, and this one is near and dear to my heart as well. I am living out by faith by advocating for the overlooked, especially single Christian women. I constantly speak up for women that the church, quite frankly, often sidelines or forgets. Single women, older women, women that are called to create, build, and lead, women navigating corporate spaces without losing their faith. There's hardly any type of support that I've seen, unfortunately, for the folks that I just named, for the women that I just named. And so that type of advocacy is a ministry in and of itself. And I never really thought about that. It's kind of funny. I've had a couple people say, I really enjoy your ministry. And I'm just like, I never thought of myself as having a ministry. I never did. I just didn't. I just thought, hey, I'm out here. I want to help people. I just never thought of it as a ministry. But the more I've been studying, I guess it is. It is a ministry, and I'm going to accept that. So, the advocacy that I've been having towards, I have a special place in my heart for single Christian women, mainly because I'm a single Christian woman. I'm older, navigating this crazy corporate world. And quite frankly, I've not seen the type of support that I feel should exist. And so, I'm blessed to have my mom. So without her, I would be completely lost. But again, this type of me not wanting to overlook single Christian women, it reflects Christ's heart for people who are faithful yet unseen. Number 5, I choose to have integrity over shortcuts. And I'm going to be honest, there have been so many times that I that I could have advanced much further in my career if I did not want to have integrity be my shining light, if you will, because, this world is really based on, there's no easy way to say this. There's just a lot of garbage people in this world, right? And, it's not necessarily who you know, but it's like it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know that seems to advance a lot of folks in the corporate world, unless you're willing to play the game, unless you're willing to suck up to folks, unless you're willing to compromise your values. And that's just something that I'm not willing to do. So, because again, based off of the fact that I could easily compromise my values, I could, compromise my messages to grow faster. And I'm trying to look at my little notes here. I could compromise my messages to grow faster. I could water down my faith to appeal to broader audiences. I could chase trends instead of the truth. I could compromise, what's going on in, there've been quite a few positions that I've held where folks wanted to play loosey-goosey with the numbers, and I just refuse to do that. I'm not going to do any of that, right? And so because I don't do that, I deliberately am principled and anchored even when it costs me time, money, or ease. Okay. And that right there, that type of restraint is spiritual maturity. And again, it's a sacrifice. It is something that I had to grow into. I knew for a fact that compromise was something that I knew for a fact early on in my career that compromising was something that I just was not going to do, because I need to be able to go to sleep at night. And doing those type of things that folks wanted me to do that I knew would go against God's word was not an option. It just wasn't. But I had to grow into the fact that I had to be okay with the fact that my decision to choose integrity over compromise wasn't always going to net out the expected outcome that I wanted, which was, by me, for example, by me not going along with someone who wanted to lie on a report, that cost me a promotion. You wouldn't think that by telling the truth, an adverse reaction would happen. And I was very naive early on in my career to think that way. And then I realized, just because I do the right thing doesn't necessarily mean that the right thing is going to happen to me right here on earth the way that I expect it to. God said vengeance is his. Vengeance is his. And let me tell you, on more than one occasion, I have been in a position to see that happen. But again, it didn't happen the way that I thought it was going to happen. Justice ended up coming from a different way. So I said all that to say this. Integrity is something that I refuse to compromise on. However, it took me a minute to realize that I cannot have preconceived ideas as to how God is going to bring about that type of justice. Okay. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to go to the next point though. Number 6. I am trusting God with the process, not just the outcome. So I'm not just asking God to fix XYZ, but I'm allowing him to shape me throughout that process, which has allowed me to have more discernment, boundaries. My voice is stronger and my confidence has deepened because I am learning with God the ability to really just rely on him and trust him with the outcome. And that actually goes back to what I just said about the preconceived ideas. So many times I'm thinking, God, I've done XYZ. I'm expecting ABC to happen. And he's like, no. That's your idea of what's supposed to happen. So because I'm leaning into my own understanding and not his, right? And so, I feel like that's something that I have grown in, but I still have a lot more room to grow as well. And then last but not least, how I am living out my faith is that I'm very big on making space for others. And so part of my faith has been creating room for women who feel unseen, especially during times of different seasons of transition. Maybe you're pivoting into a different career, or, maybe you're just in a different space in life and you don't have anyone to kind of connect with. And so if you are a woman discerning what God is calling you to next, and you want a faith-centered space for clarity and growth, that is the whole reason why I decided to create the Faith to Launch community. So the Faith to Launch community is for Christian women who want to grow in the word and in business. All right. I'm a strong believer that you can do both. And I wanted to make sure that I'm doing my part by creating a community that addresses both of those needs. And so I just want to let you know about that. No pressure, no hype, just alignment. So if you're in a season of becoming and you don't want to walk it alone, I'm going to leave the link below. But again, I want to know, getting back to the whole purpose of this video, How are you living out your faith? So in the event that you are watching this video, go ahead and let me know in the comment section. And if you are listening to the audio, via Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to this from, feel free to, send me a text message. I would love to hear your comments. And just a heads up for the folks that do decide to use that text message feature, please know that unfortunately Buzzsprout does not allow me the ability to, email or send a message back. So I apologize in advance, but I read every last one of those comments. And I just want to, once again, I want to leave you with this. It's an important question that you need to have the right answer to. How are you living out your faith? Remember, if you're everything to everyone, then you risk being no one. You never know who you will inspire. See you in the next video. Have you ever looked at your life and thought, God, I thought I'd be farther along than this? Maybe you're single, maybe you're rebuilding, maybe life hasn't gone the way you planned. Let me remind you of a truth most people won't say out loud. Your life does not start when a relationship begins, your purpose doesn't wait on a ring, and your calling doesn't need permission from anyone but God. And that's exactly why I wrote How to Live an Extraordinary Life with or Without Mr. Right. This isn't another book telling you to sit still and wait. It's a roadmap for becoming the woman God created you to be. In your joy, in your purpose, in your gifts, in your confidence. Inside, you're going to learn how to hear God's voice above the noise, build a life that excites you, break free from comparison and timelines, and walk boldly, knowing you are already whole. You are not behind, you are not forgotten, you are becoming. Grab your copy today and let's build the extraordinary life God designed for you.